prescriptions like they were for candy. That's how the U.S. attorney described the physician for Chris Benoit. Benoit is the pro wrestler who strangled his wife and his son before he killed himself last month. Now the feds say they're trying to find out whether that doctor had anything to do with another wrestler's sudden death. Here with us live now from Palm Desert, California, is criminal defense attorney John Nolan, and here in the Fox newsroom in New York, medical malpractice attorney Andrew Smiley. What I'm curious about is, wouldn't they'd have to have something to begin bringing up the possibility of a tie-in here, wouldn't they?
Clearly, and someone tipped them off. They found out this doctor was writing all these prescriptions, and apparently he was writing prescriptions for 10-month doses of steroids every 3 weeks, which obviously doesn't jive. So something was going wrong here, and they looked into it. There are varying accounts of whether this much steroids would be too much for someone of his size. Was not a small man. And I just wonder if there's a way that you could go after him here, or is he protected in some way? You can clearly go after this doctor.
As a prosecutor?
Well, as a prosecutor, you could go after him, and that's what they're doing. They've already indicted him on all these charges. Civilly, you can go after him, too, if you show that his actions by writing these prescriptions when he shouldn't be, because it's not in the best interest and good health of his patient, ends up in this guy dying and getting into rage and killing people and killing himself.
John Dolan, is that an argument that we can make at this point? I mean, after all, we don't know whether this was roid rage or not yet anyway.
Well, and we need to set the record straight. This doctor has not been charged with anything regarding Chris Benoit yet. He's been charged with 2 other people, and it didn't have to do with steroids. It had to do with other drug prescriptions. And if you look at the numbers that have been presented, if you do the math, the dosages are 3 or 4 a day for the drugs that we're talking about, and that's not excessive. So, yeah, there's some interesting stuff to look into here. But when the U.S. attorney says he's passing out medication like candy, that's one of those hyperboles that needs to be proven in court. And frankly, I think they got big problems proving criminal liability in this case, although there might be some civil liability.
Is it, in your mind, is it the right thing, or is it in some way out of bounds for a U.S. attorney to say something like that? Does that poison the jury pool potentially?
Well, I have to tell you, U.S. attorneys are very well known to make press releases when they unseal indictments. But in my opinion, it's inappropriate because then, of course, the jury pool gets contaminated, or at least potentially contaminated. I think all he can do is ask his lawyer to get out there and try and put the spin in the other direction. Remember, again, we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt, the highest standards in the law. We have a doctor who has a reputation that has been unassailed, minor difficulties up until this point. And we have very large people who are not representative of the average population insofar as dosages. And remember still, Chris Benoit's death has not been charged to this doctor, either as the other death. It is being investigated at this point.
That other is John Dolan. He died in February of 2006. Andrew, is that something that they'll look, what did I say? Johnny Grunge is who it was. Andrew Smiley, do they look back into that and others now? Sorry.
I would think that they would. You know, it's about time that the federal authorities got involved in monitoring doctors writing prescriptions. There's an issue of it with the Anna Nicole Smith doctor writing painkillers. There's been issues that go on as to what happens when too much medication is getting into these celebrities, these athletes, and it's about time they're looking into it, and we're going to find some answers out soon, I would expect.
Andrew Smiley, John Dolan, thank you both. Britain's Queen Elizabeth